We want to quickly go to breaking news. This is in Panorama City. You can see the police presence there, and that car just in front of them is the subject of their interest. JT Alpin is in Air 7 HD. And JT, before we went to the show, the open here, we saw them throw a spike strip in front of the car, and then he just drove right over it. What's going on?
Yeah, that's right, Philip. This was a failure to yield, and what they did here, this all started in Panorama City, and right now it is a tense situation here at Cantaloupe and Ashworth. The suspect was wanted for failure to yield and driving under the influence, and what they did is he stopped here on this side street, and LAPD Mission Division officers took that spike strip with about a four-man contact team with weapons, covered that vehicle as they dropped that spike strip in front of the vehicle. Well, then the suspect tried driving away, and that spike strip is actually, you can't really see it right now, we'll push in a little bit, is actually wrapped up in and around that front wheel well, both on the right and left side, and the suspect is not moving. Now, what's interesting about this is there is a helium tank on board this car, this Honda sedan with a suspect in it, what they believe to be a helium tank, and what they've seen is possibly the suspect actually inhaling some of that helium out of a balloon. Now, right now, here's the situation. It is a wait-and-see situation. Nothing but time on the hands here for LAPD Mission Division. They're going to wait to see right now. They've got plenty of officers here to cover it. They've got a perimeter set up. They've requested an LA City Fire Rescue ambulance to stand by. And right now, it's up to the suspect. We're not sure how incapacitated that car is right now. The spike strip did puncture those tires, but it's a slow come out, and right now it looks like the left tire may be okay, but not sure how incapacitated this car is right now. But right now they're just going to stand by. They're going to wait to see what this suspect does. They've got plenty of officers and backup in the area, and it's a wait-and-see game right now, Philip, and that's the situation here over Panorama City.
Well, JT, we're going to watch this with you just for a second, but one of the things that we are aware of, and you can let me know if I'm inaccurate on this, but because this suspect had been driving around in the same area over and over, police have not only taken a position behind him, there's a perimeter set up in this area. So this is going to affect people who might be driving around this Cantaloupe in the westbound community area that we're talking about, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Philip. Right now, it looks like they've confirmed these road shutdowns to these side streets and around these side streets. The closest major street is Woodman. That is just to the east of this location. I'm looking down and I'm seeing traffic moving just fine, both northbound and southbound on Woodman. And then there's Roscoe Boulevard, which is just south of this, which seems to be moving as well. But you're right, LAPD, when they have these types of situations, they set up what's called a perimeter. And that's in case that suspect decides to get out and start running, that if he starts running through these yards and these adjacent properties here, they have units set up, they contain a perimeter, they lock it down, they get K9 unit out here, and they'll do a yard-to-yard search if he goes in one of these yards. But right now, he is contained. They're waiting to see what his next move is going to be. Their supervisors are on scene, which is very important. We have Air Support Division overhead managing it from the air and making sure that if he does run, they're going to keep eyes on him and tell these officers on the ground exactly where to go.
Well, now, have we seen any action from him other than when you said it appears as if he's breathing helium from that helium tank? Apparently, there's a helium tank in the passenger seat. But have you seen any other action from him that would be something that the officers would be overly concerned with? Or are we just seeing him, like earlier in the week, just kind of wander around in there?
Yeah, right now what we're going to do for you here, Philip, is we're going to try to get a closer look. We're going to move a little bit further south here, and then we're going to throw the camera double around, see if we can't look inside try to look inside that driver's side window and get a closer look. So we're going to position the helicopter right now to try to get a better look. But yeah, right now he was just driving around relatively slowly with a failure to yield. He wasn't quite reckless, but maybe you can get through the trees here and give you a closer look.
We can see him now, JT.
Throw that doubler in here, and we'll hold right here. And he looks to be very agitated, kind of moving around. You see that blue balloon in there, Philip? Yep. That's what he is huffing on, or what they call there. We're going to hold right here, and you can see that he's very animated, very active in there. We're going to try to hold for this tree right here, but this is a pretty good angle. But you see how he's moving around. He definitely looks like he's under the influence, possibly under the influence, but not sure what's in that balloon. Possibly helium, possibly another substance. But yeah, very dangerous situation here. That unknown if any weapon. You know, when the police come up on stuff like this, they don't know what he's got. They don't know what he's wanted for. A lot of the times, could be just an unreported stolen car. You can see some traffic damage on that left rear quarter panel of that Honda. What looks to be an Accord or a Civic here, sedan. But yeah, in that cockpit, lots of motions, hands moving around, very, very animated, very dangerous situation for officers. They don't know what's in that car, what he's reaching for or grabbing, but he's very busy with his hands there, reaching into that center,
he's
popping
making
up another balloon.
Right now,
now this one, a red one. Yeah, write that, Philip, another red one. So whatever that substance is that he is inhaling quite a bit of it, and that's why LAPD has asked for that rescue ambulance, because they know he's doing that. They're talking about that, and they know it's quite possible that when they do get him in custody, which they will, that he is going to need immediate medical treatment with the LA City Fire Department.
Well, one of the things that also that you mentioned, JT, just to reiterate here, there's really no reason for them to take more aggressive action at this point, because it doesn't appear he's a danger to anyone but himself. Yes, I mean, the traffic, you said, the nearest main street is Woodman. Nobody's going to really be watching that. I mean, this is really amazing to sit here and watch him go through whatever this gas is, because we don't know that it's helium. It could be, I suppose, but it could be nitrogen. It could be any number of different things that he might be huffing on. But this is not affecting anybody else, correct?
Right now, it's not affecting everybody else, but they do have a lockdown, like you say. It's not affecting any traffic, and it's a wait-and-see game. But you know, when he gets out of this vehicle under the influence, you know, depending on what he's under the influence of, it could be a situation. They want to make sure that when he doesn't run inside someone's homes. So if you do live in the area of Ashworth and Cantaloupe, please obviously stay inside, lock your doors. You don't want to come out and watch this. You can watch it here on ABC7 in case this guy does get out, because they're most likely want to get hands on him as soon as possible if he'll comply and take him into custody. So, but that's the situation. You don't want to come out and look at this. Let the officers do what they need to do. We're going to pull out a little bit and just show you what they're set up on. You can see this contact team here, a contact team of 5 officers, which is usual. They're in TAC gear. You see that green shotgun, that shotgun with the green on it. That's what's called a beanbag shotgun. That's a less than lethal option for officers to use if they have to make contact with a suspect. It puts a beanbag round out, and that can incapacitate the suspect without being a lethal round. That's what you see, that green indicator there. This is the 5-man contact team, and you see the supervisor there with the short sleeves. He's the one basically managing this situation and letting everybody know what the plan is, putting a plan together out of every option there is possible to take this guy into custody.
And JT, just to recap, police were trying to have him pull over, but it was a failure to yield that led to the police pursuit. Is that correct?
We got over it right after he had stopped, but it is our understanding that it was a failure to yield for a possible driver under the driving erratically, driving under the influence is what we've heard as well. But not really sure. And they followed him for a little bit, then it went to a pursuit, failure to yield for about 5 minutes or so, and then he came to stop here. Now you see that piece of what looks like a black bag laying in front of the car, and that red piece of equipment next to it. That's the spike strip. That's what the officers walked up to the vehicle and dropped in front of the vehicle as he was stopped, in case he tried to pull away. And what we did see at one point, he put the vehicle into reverse and was backing that Honda right up towards the officer, which is an extremely dangerous situation and can be construed as assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer. When they start moving that car around and it starts moving towards officers' cars or officers out without cover, that can be an extremely dangerous situation. Fortunately, he didn't do that very quickly at all. He did it very, very slow, and no deadly force was needed in that situation. But this is a standoff. This is what they're going to do. They're going to wait and see, and right now you can see he's still huffing on that red balloon, and that I'm not sure if that's his second or third red one, but we saw that blue one. That was
JT, we have watched him basically go through one after another, and at some point I would assume authorities are going to have to do something to protect his own well-being. Now, we've seen the officers behind him. What about any officers in front? Have you seen any kind of approaching officers? You have the contact team, which is clearly behind him, but do you know, I mean, clearly you said medical personnel will be close by.
Yeah, usually, Philip, in these situations, it's not typical for LAPD or most law enforcement agencies to put officers deployed in front of the suspect for two reasons. One, you don't want to be in the line of fire or the line of danger with the suspect, and what's called a crossfire situation. You see all these contact teams, if they start to engage the suspect with a weapon, we don't want any officers downrange that can possibly be involved with a crossfire situation. So that's typically why they don't line up those officers in front of. But they do have
he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere because he can't. That vehicle's been disabled with the spike strip. So you're right. There's probably no necessity to be in front of him at all.
Yeah, that's true, and it's hard to tell right now. We've taken a closer look at that left front tire, and yeah, it looks deflated. So the spike strip on that left front tire did its job, and that is deflated. So we're going to pull back out here and show you the wide shot of the officers. Now we got the contact team coming up to the vehicle. You can see that the first man, the stick, moving up, covering that vehicle. They want to get a closer look to see what he's going to be doing. Most of the weaponry here you see is less than lethal. They're going to open up that back door to see if it's locked, to see if they can make entry. Trying to get a closer look of what he's doing. Cover him. They've got good cover with that tree. Right now they can see both hands, which is a good thing because they're both on the balloons.
Well, now one thing that we don't know, JT, is that necessarily the substance. We assume that it's helium in that canister, but then again, there is a danger to all involved. Not necessarily that helium is explosive, but any kind of gas under compressed container like that is going to be a danger if some sort of shots are fired and any kind of breach in that container, because that could cause any kind of canister like that could explode. So they've got to be careful with that as well.
Absolutely.
But he's still filling up balloons.
Mm-hmm.
Still filling up balloons.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right, Philip. That is in the consideration. Right now you can see that lead officer talking to him, trying to verbalize with him and give him commands to come out. And they're taking that in consideration, and they're also considering now if this is something other than helium, such as nitrous oxide or something like that, the amount of stuff that he's inhaling is a danger to himself, and they're keeping that in consideration.
Anything other than oxygen is going to be a significant danger to him at this point. I mean,
that's right.
The volume that he has been taking in and his agitated state, it's almost as if he's just breathing it in as if it's oxygen.
I'm surprised he hasn't passed out already.
Yeah, and I am too. It's just amazing how much he's taken in, and that's quite a bit. So, and I think these officers, it looks like they just fired a beanbag into the window, and officers are now going to take the advantage of breaking that left side window with a baton. His hands are out. They're going to pull him through that window. And I think they figured it was enough. They want to take him into custody. He is resisting. You can see he's tightened up, they want to get his arms behind his back so he can't reach for his waistband. The two officers there on the left are going to clear the car, make sure there's no one else in there. Now you can see he's, they
also need to identify that substance as well.
That's right. When you see the suspects that are under the influence like that, they are very, very strong. We've seen this typically. The keys are out of the car, out of the ignition. They're taking 3 or 4 officers in what they call a swarm technique. Everybody takes a limb, make sure that he can't move, and they're going to cuff him up, and so he's a danger not to the officers and to himself. And it looks like they're gonna call a code 4 here, which means suspect in custody, no further assistance needed, and debrief what they have going here.
All right, JT. Once again. We've been watching this pursuit that started shortly before and then now has been concluded, but we're also getting word here regarding helium. If you inhale too much, it could be similar to when a scuba diver surfaces too quickly. In other words, the bends and the gas bubbles could get into your bloodstream. So again, probably what they had to do is for this person's own well-being, they had to take action, which they did. We told you before this wasn't really much of an impact to anyone surrounding this area in Panorama City, but just simply because of the well-being of this person, we saw the volume of whatever gas he was inhaling. He was doing a lot of it, but you see that the officers have him in custody, so it appears as if this is now over after we had watched this, but he did not want to come out of that vehicle, but officers thankfully safe to themselves, and this suspect now going to get some help as well as
they just don't know what this guy is doing right now.
There we go. There we go. There we go. They're making their approach. They're making their approach. They're going to make an attempt to get this guy out of his car here. So they've broken out the window and they have opened the door, and now they are getting this guy out of the car forcefully. If he's not going to comply, they are going to go in there and take him, and that's exactly what this team of officers did. They were carefully waiting this out, waiting on the right-hand side of the vehicle, and when they decided to make their move, they did so very suddenly. You just saw that. They went around to the driver's side of the car. They smashed out the windows. They unlocked the door, and they dragged the guy out of the car, and there you go. He is on the floor being handcuffed by at least 4, possibly 5 officers there, and so hopefully he has not, put himself under the influence and, done any harm to himself. But, again, there you go. This is going to be a Code 4 situation. They have taken this guy into custody, and now officers are in the process of clearing the vehicle, which means that they are basically opening the trunk and making sure no one's in there, making sure there's no other type of weapon or contraband that might be in the trunk. But, again, they are taking this guy into custody, and hopefully he is okay. Hopefully he has not done himself any harm by doing what we saw him doing there, inhaling the balloon, refilling it, and inhaling it again, just repeatedly. So, again, this guy is going to be taken into custody here. This is Cantaloupe Street, just north of Ashworth here in Panorama City. I'm going to come around here and see if we can get another shot of the suspect here. But, again, there you go, a Code 4 situation. Jessica?
Yeah, Mark, he put up a bit of a fight for officers.
Hey guys,
he didn't come out of there easily. But it seems to have ended safely. This did start as a pursuit. A DUI suspect fled from police when they tried to pull him over. It ended with a spike strip here at Ashbrook and Cantaloupe in Panorama City. Appears to be a safe ending for those, especially in the neighborhood. Happy to see that. We'll have more on this story, of course, on our 1 o'clock news. Mark Kono, we appreciate it. Back to our regularly scheduled program.